Hello and welcome back to Operations Swift Void. This is your host Forgotten Void, and today we're going to be going how to run a carrier in Raptor Rescue. Now, someone commented on my previous video that carrier play was boring, and so while I was planning to show basic carrier play and how to play a carrier in Kaga, and I had a video set aside for that, I decided to run a few with Graf Zeppelin instead, and, well, I happened to do a Raptor Rescue in the past couple days in Graf Zeppelin, so we are making the video with Graf Zeppelin instead of Kaga. Now, if you want me to post a Kaga video, I can. Just let me know in the comments. But we're going to do it with Graf Zeppelin because it is abnormal for a carrier in which you actually go in and brawl. Reason being is Graf Zeppelin has the most accurate secondaries in the game with battle cruiser dispersion. The battle cruiser main gun dispersion formula. The only exception would be Pensacola under 5 kilometers. Under 5 kilometers, Pensacola has the most accurate secondaries, and Arkansas Beta. But Arkansas Beta you can't bring into ops, and Pensacola, if you're within 5 kilometers of enemy, you're too close, unless they're transports. So, with that being said, we'll go into battle with the Graf Zeppelin. So, with the Graf Zeppelin, normally with a carrier, I put it at 3/4 or maybe half speed at the beginning. But for Graf Zeppelin, since I actually want to get to the end, or get to the other side where the other carrier is as fast as possible, you go ahead and throw it into full speed. Now, this part, pretty much everything that's not Russian, you grab bombers. I mean, you could do it with Russians as well, but you grab bombers as your first thing. You go over here, you see the destroyer. You don't even attack the destroyer. You don't go for the destroyer. You're just putting fighters over there so the rest of your team can attack it and get rid of it as soon as possible. And you get the spotting damage. As you see, we have Luchins aboard. So you go ahead and grab bombers, and you're going for the battleship. And you see we get 1 out of 2 hits, and that one happens to be a Citadel. With other planes that aren't as fast as Graf Zeppelin, you generally can get behind the carrier to get another strike in the direction that you want. Oh look, we got the destroyer with the secondary. But with Graf Zeppelin, doesn't matter which way you attack. It's a circle reticle. It's all pretty bad. And now we're coming up here because we were checking to see if the cruisers spawn. And yes, the cruisers, the first wave of cruisers, do spawn really, really early. They spawn like 30 seconds or so within the match starting. And if I had gone back earlier, I could have gotten this torpedo strike off. And this is, you don't do the torpedoes because it would cause them to turn before. It may or may not now, but it used to cause them to turn, and so people who threw out torpedoes early, it would mess up the torpedo strike, allowing the ship to survive longer. And here's where I learned something new. The Mogami, they all spawn in the same spots. It's at the island that the Mogami decides to turn left or turn right. So I learned that the spawn isn't dynamic up there, but that the pathing the ship chooses is very RNG based, whether it decides to go south or decides to go north. There might be some other, like how many ships are spotted down south, or just depending on where the ships are spotted when it decides to turn. But yeah, and there we see the weakness of the Graf Zeppelin circle reticle. It's harder to get a hit with bombs. But yeah, you know, even I learned new stuff with ops. So I will have to change that in the wiki that there's only what I'll remove 1/3 of the options because the north spawn does not have that many and does not have 2 variable spawns, but only the one. And normally you want to be behind the fleet in a carrier. We're not in a normal carrier, so we're not behind the fleet. I wasn't expecting the Alba to die there, and then that dies, and so now I'm really out of luck. So we get to just sit and watch the secondaries work over the Mogami, because I didn't feel like throwing more planes out. And you just get to watch the secondary counter tick up. Because that's a broadside of what? 20 guns? 20 guns with battlecruiser dispersion? And fairly fast reload? You have the 10... How fast is the reload at? Actually, the 105s have a base reload of 2.9 seconds. Okay, maybe not. That's not their base reload. Because the skill, yeah, that's minus 10%. The secondary armament expert gives minus 10%. But, more or less, in this game, a base reload of 2.9 seconds because it'll get down faster. And so what we're doing here is we're just, we're scouting. That's it. We're just scouting. And we got detected, and so we knew that something's over here, and then there's cruisers over here. So now we know we don't have to worry about cruisers spawning over at the A8 section, and then coming down and attacking our carrier. So that gives us a bunch of relief. Because they're down here. And it also lets our allies know where they are. So that they can come to attack. And the fighters latched on, but it's fine. The attack aircraft on the Graf Zeppelin, they're pretty much throwaway aircraft because their dispersion is bad, their machine gun attack rate is bad, and their they only carry 4 rockets per plane, so that's 8 rockets. So the alpha is pretty bad. The only gimmick it has is it actually has 40 millimeters of penetration. So you're going to get damage usually, and it does a lot of damage. But for the most part, they're pretty bad. So what we're doing is we're turning here just in case the Hatsuharu loaded its torps and threw them out. And if that's the case, it would have missed so bad that we might not even spot the torpedoes.
Wir haben einen gegnerischen Zerstörer versenkt. Support the allied target.
And so normally you would be using planes, probably torpedo planes, to go after the destroyers. But since we're up here and we're using secondaries, we're in a secondary carrier, that's a big difference. Or you would be using planes to go after the south cruisers. And there's our automatic DCP. Yes, it is more than a minute. I do have the DCP mod on for Graf Zeppelin because you plan on brawling with it, so you might as well have that little bit longer DCP for a little bit less time of setting on fire. And so I'm tired of the fighter planes spotting us. So we're going to use our throwaway aircraft. And either we take the fighters and we drag them back to our carrier, or they shoot us down and shoot out our planes, and then we don't have to worry about them anymore. It still actually drug them back far enough that we were able to shoot them down and get 4 plane ribbons. Yay! And yes, now we get to watch the secondaries at work again. And now the secondaries have another further 10%, 8%, 10% less because of Lucians. And the 150s have a slower reload of 6.4 seconds, but that's still on the fast side of things. Because Cleveland has a 6.5 second reload for 150, so these 150s reload even quicker. So now we're just going to sit here and wait. Normally, we would be using planes to go. For a normal carrier, we'd be using the planes to go out, but I want to get into position first. And since you can't fly planes and steer your ship at the same time, thank you, rework. I know it's been, 5 years now since the CV rework, and I'm still upset about it. I will still be upset about it 5 years from now. Because before the CV rework, you could throw planes at something and then continue to drive your ship while your planes were on autopilot. Which is a lot nicer, because when planes are on autopilot, you don't have to worry about islands. Whereas your ship, you have to worry about islands. Anyways, Southern CV was taken care of, but there is a destroyer back there. It currently is the only thing on the map so far, or that we know. So we're going to be bringing the planes up there just in case that it's the cruiser plane train. So part of what we're doing is to take out the Fubuki. The other part is to check to see if the cruisers have spawned, because we know it's a north exit, and there's only 2 spots they can spawn on with the north exit. Is over here with where we are with the cruisers, or to the right of our ship. That's port. No, port is left. Starboard. And there they spawned over there. And as soon as our ship got detected, signal came up. We knew where they were. So we went ahead and we called our planes to launch out a new set. Now, as you see, I pre-dropped the first one. That's because we're only going to be able to make one attack with that AA, since the bots have buffed AA. And there we go. We got one in. And this allows us to have another squad ready. And 4 planes is plenty. And here I actually should have gone off after the Congo instead of the Nagato. And here you see I line up for the Nagato. And we get it with a secondary kill. And the reason why I drop is because when you're in attack, it's easier to just drop and split up the planes than to wait for the attack to finish the animation, so you can go and swap to a new one. A new squadron. And as you can see, we're actually using we were using the islands to approach the cruisers to try and reduce the time that we were in AA. And here I'm actually using the rockets for a reason, and that is because they have 40mm penetration, and Yahagi, I believe, has only a 30mm deck, and it doesn't have spaced armor between the deck and the Citadel. So if we can get deck hits, we may be able to get this Citadel with it. Maybe. Possibly. Not guaranteed. We're using bombs against the Alba. And it's a whiff. Welcome to Graf Zeppelin dive bombing. You can attack from the side, but you have just as bad a chance of hitting from the side as with normal. And if you notice, we're not moving. And that's because we have the teleport spawns. And since there's only one ship, here I'm just going to go have these planes circling for a minute. Since only one ship is sunk, both the teleport spawns will spawn at the same time. If two ships had sunk, then they would spawn in one at a time. And then we don't know which side would spawn in, and then we would just stay here anyways. If three of our allies had sunk, or two including me, three ships are sunk, then they just don't spawn. Period. So this is kind of the bonus round, the bonus stage. You do well, and then you get bonus ships to kill. You do poorly, and they may spawn in one at a time, or just not spawn in at all. Now, if you're all still alive, but you're poor at killing ships, unlike us, and there are other ships still around, then they will spawn in one at a time when the 5.5 minute mark comes around. Oh, 5:35. And if you notice, one spawned in slightly before the other. It's probably a programming thing where they check is one spawns in at the time, and then the other one checks, are there any other ship besides the one that just spawns in, or are there more than 5 ships, player ships left alive? If so, then spawn the next one. So it probably has to go through and run that script. Hence the slight delay in the spawning. That is just entirely my theory. Doesn't make it true. That's just entirely my theory. And so with that, that is a Graf Zeppelin getting 250k damage and Raptor. And right now we just wait for Raptor to get to the exit. We already have our 5 stars. So I will skip ahead to the end screen. So as you can see, 5 stars. And this is greens, and we still get 600k credits with 250k damage. We have assistant for dealing a lot of damage. We are top of the board. And if you look, we have 151k damage with our secondary battery. With to the Nagato that we did the most, 46k damage to the Nagato. And then the Myoko that was the teleport spawn, and that was the one we did actually do a lot of damage with the secondaries. But if you notice, 151k was from the secondaries with 1600 shells fired, whereas our planes only did 71k. So the main weapon here was definitely the secondary battery, whereas with most carriers, your main weapon will be your planes. Actually, we did more because there are 35k damage in the set, 32k in fires, and that was also mostly set by our secondaries. So over twice of our damage was done with the secondary battery. And that is Graf Zeppelin. That is what she does well. It was just secondary DACA with planes for spotting. I enjoy the boat. It does well in Raptor Rescue and Narai. Last week we showed a carrier doing poorly in Narai. Graf Zeppelin is the only carrier that excels in Narai because it has more firepower than most cruisers. Anyways, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to let me know in the comment section below. If you liked the video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, thumbs down. If you want to see more content, I will be weaning off and probably not doing much more carrier content anymore. I was in a carrier mood a while, and recently more recently was in a Tashkent 39 mood, so I have a lot of runs in Tashkent 39 recently. I don't think I recorded much. Who knows what I'll be running in the near future. But if there's a specific ship that you want to replay on, also let me know on that, and I'll do my best to put the replay showing how to play that. Anyways, as always, I hope you have a good one, and I hope to see you next week.